And we are reading today, comrades, from Kim Jong-il. Let us bring the advantages of our people's government into fuller play. We are down here on the final chapter, chapter 4, on improving and strengthening the work of the people's government organs. So let us hear the words of Comrade Kim Jong-il. In order for the people's government to perform its mission and carry out its tasks successfully, it must build government bodies at all levels solidly and improve their work steadily, in conformity with the developing realities and the aspirations of the masses. The function and role of the power organs should be improved. A power organ is a genuine representative organ of the masses, which directly represents the will of the masses and exercises power in their interests. It occupies a leading position in the hierarchy of government bodies, and power is represented only by the power organ. The uniformity and completeness of the power in our country is guaranteed by the activities of the Supreme People's Assembly and other power organs at all levels. The Supreme People's Assembly, composed of excellent representatives of all social strata on the principle of democratic election, is a power organ which exercises completeness in the putting of sovereignty into practice. The Supreme People's Assembly and all other people's assemblies at all levels should be held at regular intervals, as required by the Socialist Constitution, and run at a high standard to adopt stipulations and resolutions which accord with the will and demands of the broad masses. The deputies elected by the people should exercise their rights of speaking and voting properly in the People's Assembly, reflecting the will and demands of the masses. They should always mingle with their electorate and the masses, lend an attentive ear to what they say, and enlist them in the effort to carry out the policies of the party and the state. The People's Committee is a standing power organ, whose main activity is guidance through exercising power. The People's Committees at all levels should give guidance, supervise, and regulate the proper execution of the stipulations, orders, decrees, resolutions, and directives of the state and the decisions of the local people's assemblies. However excellent the stipulations and resolutions adopted are, they cannot be put into practice, as they should if the committees do not give proper guidance by exercising power. They should adhere to the state's laws and get acquainted with and give proper guidance to the work of the administrative and economic organs, and the practice of obeying socialist laws. They should hold meetings at regular intervals, and, in conformity with the will and demands of the people, run them to enhance the sense of responsibility and role of the members in discussing and deciding the problems arising between sessions of the people's assemblies. In improving the work of the People's Committees, it is important to enhance the role of the Central People's Committee. It is only when the role of the Central People's Committee, the highest leadership organ of state power, is improved that a unified leadership of political, economic, and cultural lives of the country can be effected satisfactorily, and a well-regulated working system of power organs established. While supervising and regulating the work of the Administration Council, the committee should provide substantial guidance to the work of the local people's committees and the judicial and procuratorial organs. The role of administration and executive organs should be enhanced. On the basis of their stipulations, orders, decrees, resolutions, and directives of the power organs, they organize, guide, and provide for social life. As the building of socialism and communism advances, society becomes more organized, and social life becomes more diversified. Socialist society can be managed properly, and society can develop in a harmonious manner only when the role of the administrative and executive organs is improved steadily. Anarchist fucking seething right now. Excuse me. The Administration Council is the administrative and executive body of the highest organ of state power. It takes measures to implement the policies of the party in the state, and organizes and guides administrative and economic work in all fields. It should have a good grasp of all the administrative and economic work of the country, in order to give guidance with the main emphasis on the command of economic work. The important problems related to economic work should be presented to the Council, the Economic HQ, and handled and arranged there. It should organize the overall economic work, give unified guidance to it, and establish a rigid state and administrative discipline to develop the economy of the country rapidly. It should hold its plenary meetings and the meetings of its permanent committee at regular intervals, to take appropriate measures for resolving new and important problems arising in the administration of the state and economic work. The commissions and ministries are departmental executive bodies of the Administration Council and departmental management bodies in the capital. Under the guidance of the Administration Council, they should guide and regulate the work in their own spheres, with a sense of responsibility in accordance with their tasks and authority. The local administrative and economic committee is the administrative and executive body of the local organ of power, and the general management body of the relevant locality. It is the first and foremost task of local administrative bodies to develop the economy and improve the people's standard of living in their own regions. The local administrative and economic committees should organize and carry out in a responsible fashion the work of industry, construction, education, public health, welfare, local trade, and other sectors by enlisting to the maximum the reserves of potential of their regions. They should display a high sense of responsibility and initiative to provide a more abundant and civilized life for the people under their authority. They should also impose strict administrative discipline and strengthen administrative supervision and regulation. The role of judicial and procuratorial organs should be further enhanced. Judicial and procuratorial, that gets all meshed up in my mouth parts. Organs are the power organs of the people's government, which guarantee by law the execution of the policies of the party and the state, and defend the masses' independent and creative life from the schemes of all other illegal machinations of class enemies. It is only when these organs are consolidated and their role improved that the power and constitutional rights of the people, and the socialist system in the state, and social property can be stoutly defended. Judicial and procuratorial organs should pay primary attention to ensuring, by means of law, the execution of the party's policies. They should wage a tough struggle against all violations of the order of administering socialist society and misappropriation of state and social property. They should defend the citizens' rights, protect the lives and property of the people, and prevent all types of crimes and violation of law. In cooperation with the security organs, they should wage a vigorous campaign to eliminate non-socialist deviations in all spheres of social life, so as to imbue the whole society with a moral and revolutionary tenor of life. Special attention should be directed in improving the work of county organs of power. County organs of power are the lowest organs of people's government. While the county is an all-embracing unit in the development of the local economy and culture, and the basic unit directly responsible for local economic life, Hey, Cosmopolitics, great to be here. Oh no, so sorry to hear that. Well, I understand yeah, your head's in other places. So sorry to hear that, comrades. Solidarity and salute. But it's great to see you in here. Welcome in. We're reading some Kim Jong Il, and then we're gonna do some spooky stuff because here at Leaping Larry's, it's spooky season for 3 months. When the work of these organs progresses smoothly, the countries develop, and further, the country becomes prosperous. Sorry, when the work of these organs progresses smoothly, the counties develop, and further, the county becomes prosperous. In conformity with the immediate and long term requirements of the building of socialism and communism, these organs should consolidate the counties and develop all the spheres of social life in a comprehensive and harmonious way. They should intensify the campaigns to win the title of Model County in observing the law, in the local budget, and in forging unity between the army and the people, and other forms of Model County campaigns, which have already fully demonstrated their superiority and viability. They should intensify the work of Jong, and the People's Neighborhood Units. Promote the campaign to win the title of Red Flag Dong and Red Flag People's Neighborhood Units, and thus transform families in a revolutionary fashion, keep streets and villages clean and tidy, and further strengthen the social order. The government organs in the capital and provinces should intensify their guidance over the work of the power organs in the counties, and help them in an efficient manner, so that they can well display their independence and initiative. The people's government organs should apply socialist democracy in a thoroughgoing manner as the only way to improve their work. Socialist democracy is the basic mode of activity of the people's government. This is a democracy of embodying collectivism, the intrinsic nature of socialism. It is, moreover, a genuine democracy which enables the broad working masses to exercise in a substantial manner their rights as befits the master of society, and shoulder their responsibility and play their role as such. By applying socialist democracy honestly, the people's government organs should involve the broad masses in the work of the government and substantially provide an independent and creative life for the people. And what would a socialist democracy be without the mass line? And here is, of course, the part that USSR failed to discover. Because unfortunately, and something that was a struggle, right from Lenin's day, as we know with Trotsky himself, but the struggle between this faction represented by the Trotskyists, the reactionaries, the opportunists, and the faction represented by Lenin and Stalin, the revolutionaries, right? Stalin called for something like this in Economic Problems of Socialism in the USSR, but because of de-Stalinization campaigns, that work was written so close to his death that while many cadres and many people in the party might have taken that work seriously, the Trotskyist leadership that had then wrestled their way to the top since following Stalin's death made it so that work was never considered seriously in shaping of any kind of policy or party line. And so one major failing of USSR is that they never really discovered the mass line. Whereas every other place, almost even independently of each other in the case of China and Korea, they discovered the mass line. And the mass line is, going amongst the masses, and instead of having orders come down from above, the party and their members are to encourage the masses to fulfill a party line by going amongst them, teaching them of their correctness, and encouraging them to voluntarily take up a struggle for this by, a voluntary mass movement. And that's what the mass line is. And then bringing that back to the party and turning that into something that then can be propagated through the entire country because of its, because of its popularity. They did in a sense. Now, and actually, Kim Jong Il as well, Phil, explains this, right? The reason why that was a thing in the early USSR, why it did work, especially under represented by the leadership of Lenin and Stalin, is because in those days you had people who were much closer to that revolutionary event and what preceded the revolution. So they had a much more direct memory of the oppression that existed under Tsarism, right? And so they were closely rallied behind the leadership. So even though you might have had deputies and various segments of the party that were engaging in this Trotskyist reactionary opportunist line, because Lenin and Stalin and that previous experience was so strong, when they were giving advice, the people themselves were demanding that these measures be followed in many instances. And so their solid unity behind Lenin and Stalin, their leaders, is help to overcome corruption and bureaucracy in those early days. But then with the de-Stalinization campaign, that caused a serious rift between the party and the people, and this really kind of disappears in the midst of that de-Stalinization campaign. And you never see the masses coalesce around Khrushchev the way that they did around Lenin and Stalin. And so you don't have the people anymore following the leadership in that way, and the party in response getting more and more entrenched in bureaucracy and thus never discovering the mass line. The mass line existed in practice, you see, but they never discovered it in theory. They never examined it and the need to keep applying it. Instead, they sort of forgot about it and forgot about the Cultural Revolution and instead treated Marxism-Leninism in this sort of mechanical way where they thought that because now they have achieved the primary socialist system, because they had achieved that thing and the masses were now living under a new material society, that they would just become socialist people of their own accord. And thus they kind of slacked and neglected ideological education and training and struggle. And that's why, like, even Perenni points out, right? That's why they really doled out Marxism-Leninism, the classics, as a sort of like catechism almost. I mean, he didn't really directly rehabilitate Trotsky, but in the de-Stalinization campaign, that is the results of it, right? It normalizes Trotsky's work, absolutely, yeah. And all sorts of other reactionary trends that went against Lenin as well. Like that's why one thing that Kim Jong Il says is like the attack on Stalin wasn't really so much an attack on Stalin the individual, but an attack on the revolution. An attack on like that which was built under Lenin, the masses' demands that Lenin reflected in his leadership. And so by denying that and by sort of throwing all of that out, the people then it welcomes in all of these deviationist or these like what do you call them? These factionalist ideas like Trotskyism. Yeah. Or National Bolshevism, to name another ugly one. Yeah. So there. That's my side rant anyway. That before we get to this mass line part. So implementing the revolutionary mass line in a thoroughgoing way, Kim Jong-il says, is a major premise for the application of socialist democracy in the activities of the people's government organs. The revolutionary mass line is a basic principle underlying the activities of the people's government, a principle which requires one to serve the masses sincerely and solve all problems by harnessing their inexhaustible strength. Socialist democracy is politics for and by the broad working masses. putting the line into effect in the activities of the people's government organs enables the broad masses to rise up purposefully and consciously for the effort to create an independent and creative life. These organs should put the people's interests before anything else in their activities and subordinate everything to accommodating the will and demands of the masses. They should always rely on the masses' strength and perform their task by drawing on that strength. Officials in these organs should take to heart the great leader Comrade Kim Il sung's aphorism that when a man believes in the people and relies on them, he will win the world and always emerge victorious. But when he shuns them and is forsaken by them, he will always fail. Charlie Kirk. They should mingle with the people at all times, share good times and bad times with them, educate them, and mobilize them, so as to speed up the revolution in construction. Improving the methods and style of work of officials and the people's government organs is an important way to apply socialist democracy. What is important these days for them to improve their methods and style of work is to get rid of the abuses of authority and bureaucratism. People's government organs are not the ruling organs which lord over it, which lord over the people and govern them. Hear that again. This is from Kim Jong-il again. People's government organs are not the ruling organs which lord it over the people and govern them. They are service organs which grant rights to the people and protect them. And the officials in them are not bureaucrats, but servants of the people. If abuse of power and bureaucratism are tolerated among the officials, the people's interests will be violated, and the government organs rejected and forsaken by the people, as we saw tragically played out in USSR. Again, education should be intensified among officials against abuse of power and bureaucratism. And when these deviations are laid bare, an uncompromising struggle should be conducted in time to prevent their further occurrence. A tenacious struggle should be waged among the officials in the people's government organs against self-centeredness and the lack of a sense of responsibility. Self-centeredness is a misguided ideological concept of giving preference to the interests of one's own unit and locality over the overall interests of the party and the country. Originating in selfishness and hankering after fame, it is a harmful effect in that it disturbs the centralistic order of management of the socialist state, based on collectivism, and hampers the execution of the party's policies. A struggle against the tendency to exhibit a preference for the interests of one's own department, establishment, or locality should be waged among the officials in these organs so as to root it out. For these officials, whose mission it is to provide a happy life for the people, the lack of a sense of responsibility is nothing less than a betrayal of the people's trust and expectations. They should buckle down to resolving conclusively the problems arising in the economic construction of the country and in the people's livelihood. We serve the people. This is the revolutionary slogan they should consistently uphold. In addition, they should at all times display a sincere sense of service for the people, as required by this slogan, and thus provide a more abundant and happier life for the people. The working systems of the people's government organs should be improved until it is perfected. Only when it is improved continuously and finally made perfect to suit the developing realities and aspirations of the masses can the people's government organs perform their mission and duty as servants of the people. The proper application of democratic centralism is an important requirement for improving and perfecting the working system of government organs. Genuine political freedom and rights, and the happy life of the people are provided through the unified guidance of the people's government. The guidance guaranteed by centralism. Only a democracy relying on centralism is a true democracy. And only a centralism which ensures a high degree of democracy for the people is a genuine centralism. The working system of the people's government organs should be set up in such a way as to give full play to democracy in a proper way on the basis of attaching importance and giving precedence to centralism. In addition to applying democratic centralism, the people's government organs should fix proper norms of work and appropriate functions, and carry them out to the letter, and put the running of the state on a regular footing. A rigid legal governmental order should be established. Socialist law is a rule of conduct compulsory for all citizens, and the principal weapon for the people's government in carrying out its activities. In a socialist society, there should be laws which all members of society should observe without fail in their organized life and joint activities, and they should be compulsory. All people living in the territory of the DPRK should be unconditionally subject to the laws of the state. The establishment in society of rigid observance of law renders it possible to develop the socialist system and provide a stable and happy life for the people. As required by the socialist system and our revolution, revolutionary laws and rules supported by the people for each sector should be enacted, and the laws now in force perfected. In addition, a rigorous state and administrative discipline of executing to the letter the stipulations, decisions, and directives of the state should be established. Moreover, the campaign to establish in the whole of society a revolutionary way of observing the law should be promoted without let-up. The political and ideological levels of the officials of the people's government organs and their practical abilities should be improved. They are the guiding personnel of the revolution, and they are directly responsible for the work of the power organs. The success of the work of the power organs is dependent on their political and ideological levels and practical abilities. They should be unfailingly loyal to the party and the leader. Such loyalty is the first and foremost characteristic. Only when they have an intense loyalty to the party and the leader can they fulfill their duty that befits the commanding personnel of the revolution and construction. They should make loyalty to the party and leader an integral part of their faith, conscience, ethics, and life, so as to make it sound, pure, and absolute to the utmost degree. Their party to the party and the leader should find its expression in practical struggle to serve the people sincerely. The sole purpose of the effort to defend and carry out the lines and policies put forward by the party and the leader is to serve the masses. Separated from this, loyalty to the party and the leader is inconceivable. The officials in the people's government organs should regard the people's interests as their life and perform their duty as truly faithful and fervently faithful activists in their efforts to devote their all to the people. The officials in people's government organs should be equipped with an advanced ability to command and revolutionary enterprise. The developing realities demand that they become competent workers who have acquired theories and methodology for solving the problems in their respective sectors and establishments, and who have mastered all-around knowledge. They should set up a revolutionary way of study, and study diligently. They should be ready at all times to go to the people and learn from them. training competent officials for the people's government organs is an important undertaking related to the future of the government. In training officials from the far-sighted perspective, the University of National Economics and other training institutions, as well as the institutions for higher learning, occupy an important place. The specialized training institutions and the higher educational establishments, which are the national cadre learning bases of the country, should train students to become efficient officials, equipped with unwavering loyalty to the party and the leader, earnest devotion to the people, and the practical ability with which to organize and carry out the work competently. Party organizations should provide responsible guidance to the people's governmental organs to ensure thorough implementation of the party's lines and policies. In this guidance, party organizations should thoroughly implement the tie-in work system, which is the system of workplace democracy, a political method suited to the intrinsic nature of socialist society. The important problems in principle arising in the execution of the party's lines and policies by the people's government organs should be discussed by relevant party committees. Party guidance of the people's government organs should be, to all intents and purposes, political guidance, and guidance to implement the party's policies. While steering the people's government, party committees should refrain from taking over administrative functions and root out subjectivism and arbitrariness among officials. Party officials should not take over administrative functions, replacing officials in the power organs. Party organizations should enhance the authority of the officials in the administrative organs in their work and provide them with working conditions in such a way that they can display independence and initiative in their work. But Larry, how does the party lead if it can't take administrative work? Why is there the government officials, the state officials, and then a party? Well, you see, because the party doesn't lead by commands and decrees, by by having some official stipulations in law that say when the party says this, these state organs must do that. That's capitalism. That's imperialism. DPRK doesn't work that way, you see. And this was a party rule discovered by Lenin initially, whereby the party is indeed constitutionally the only ruling party. But the party does not lead the people's government by ruling over it, lording over it by decrees and commands. It leads by giving guidance, by giving suggestions, and reflecting correctly the demands of the masses, and therefore that guidance being very, very compelling for the vast majority of the people who are working in government and who are demanding things from their government. So the party leads through voluntariness and education. And that's why the true people who are for voluntariness and education aren't the ANCAPs, they're not even the anarchists, it's the Marxists. It's just we understand the need to, at the same time that we have these organs set up, we at the same time are able to suppress and prevent capitalist imperialists from rising and retaking state power. From reestablishing their state power, we should say. Anyway, back to Kim Jong-il. Party organizations should be built up. Party organizations should build up the ranks of the officials in the people's government organs properly. The ranks should be manned by competent officials who are unswervingly faithful to the party and the leader, who will serve the people devotedly, who have been trained in practical work, and who are equipped with theoretical and practical skills. Party organizations should not rest content with the building of their ranks. They should help them and lead them efficiently so that they can discharge their tasks satisfactorily. They should intensify ideological education and the struggle against outdated ideas among the officials in power organs, to train them to become true officials who devote their all for the party and the revolution, and for the motherland and fellow citizens. They should pay particular attention to enhancing the party spirit. By party spirit, we mean absolute devotion to the party. Party organizations should give substantial guidance to party life, with the main emphasis on training them in party spirit, thus ensuring that they work loyally at their posts of honor assigned to them by the party. Bright is the future of our people's government, advancing under the leadership of the party and the leader. And unshakable is the commitment of our people to defend to the last the people's government in any adversity. Bearing deeply in mind the historic mission we have assumed for the era and the revolution, we should consolidate the people's government, the servant of the people, and safeguard and enhance our style of socialism centered on the masses. It is of the utmost importance to strengthen the people's government in defending and enhancing our style of socialism, and the party expects a great deal from the officials in the government organs. I have a firm belief that the officials in the people's government organs will, as in the past, so in the future, discharge with a sense of responsibility the revolutionary task assigned to them by displaying the utmost loyalty to the party and the leader, and sincere devotion to the people, thus bringing the advantages of our people's government into fuller play. And there you have it. That brings us to the end of Comrade Kim Jong-il. Let us bring the advantages of our people's government into fuller play.